she was hoping to have intimate meetings with Howie Mandel. Mrs. Mandel got wind of this and told Howie, you've got to get rid of her. Trevor knows he was used for many a year, and he believed the lie. He believed that she sincerely loved him. He believed, oh, I can't survive without Trev. Oh, I don't know what would happen to me if Trev, anything should happen to him. Then she gets a better opportunity, and Trev is yesterday's news.
Breaking today, new claims that Meghan Markle has told major porcupines about her Hollywood past. This time, they're coming directly from a major star, an A-lister in California, or at least in the TV space, Howie Mandel, the former host of Deal or No Deal, who went on to be a judge on America's Got Talent. And as British Royal Tea posted, Kinsey Schofield just destroyed Meghan Markle's entire Deal or No Deal sob story in 30 seconds flat. Turns out she wasn't even a main suitcase girl. She was just a backup who barely appeared. All those I felt objectified interviews suddenly hit different. So we're going to be analysing this with Lady Colin Campbell momentarily. But first, let's look at the moment where Kinsey Schofield reveals exactly what Howie Mandel told her about Meghan's dodgy, untrue, fake past.
I have some intel because I was with Howie Mandel yesterday, host of Deal or No Deal, and I got intel on Meghan. He's got pictures of Meghan, a picture of Meghan in the studio. He also had pictures with Diana and Charles in his younger days when he had a head full of hair. And one of his coworkers who's worked with him for 30 years and also worked with Meghan on Deal or No Deal said Meghan was a backup girl. She wasn't even one of the main core. You know, if somebody called in sick, if somebody couldn't show up or had an audition, they would call Meghan.
So she was on the subs bench. She was on the subs bench.
Yeah, and so he was saying, like, not only do none of us remember her, we were shocked at her commentary about feeling like a bimbo and feeling less than because we don't remember, like, we never saw her on set. She wasn't memorable. She wasn't around, you know, like he was like, she was basically just a backup girl. And it's, again, to the Harper's Bazaar, it's this consistent rewriting of history.
Ladies, see, this is an awkward one, given that it's coming from Howie Mandel, who was actually the host of the show.
Yes, well, Dan, I don't know if you remember it, but I most likely said it on your previous show, that I was told that Mrs. Mandel is the one who told Howie to get rid of Meghan, because Meghan was trying to up her ante and was trying to cultivate Howie Mandel. And whenever she was around and he was there, she would try to buttonhole him and have ideas and that she could advance her case. Now, I did not know at the time that she was just a backup girl, but I did know that she was taking full advantage of the opportunities that presented themselves. And I mean, evidently, if Howie Mandel walked into a room, Meghan would shoot across it and be right there beside him. And Mrs. Mandel got wind of this and told Howie, you've got to get rid of her. And Howie Mandel did get rid of her. So maybe this is his nice, neat way of puncturing her pretentious balloon without actually saying something that could involve him in possible legal complications.
Wow, that's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. But the point is, she wasn't what she said she was, and she's never been honest about that. And of course, what she has done in recent months, certainly with her reunion with the now cancelled Chrissy Teigen on With Love Meghan Series 2, was try and actually do down Deal or No Deal, claimed that she felt exploited. Whereas it seems like actually she was desperate to be exploited, Lady C, if you know what I mean.
Oh, she was not only desperate to be exploited, she was hoping to have intimate meetings with Howie Mandel, where they could discuss the best ways that he could mine her field richly, so that she could then be advanced in terms of her ambitions. I mean, Meghan has never been shy, as I pointed out in my books. Meghan has never been shy in coming forwards. She'd get a job, she'd then drive the director and producer crazy
Oh,
with,
yes.
she shouldn't have 2 lines, she should have 25.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why should I be the girl that's descended from pure Aryans? Why can't I be the girl that has a dash of something else, and then I can have a bigger role? And I mean, she was always, no matter what she got, she was always pushing for more. And this used to turn people off. This was one of the reasons, as I pointed out in my book, why Trevor Engelson was very hesitant to put her forward for anything, because Meghan was an embarrassment. No matter what she was put forward for and managed to get, she then tried to up the ante and turn it into something it wasn't. And what has happened now that she's got a platform is the spitefulness and the viciousness that has always been a part of her nature has come out, where it's not enough that she was busy bigging herself up and trying to get more, but now she has to denigrate the very people who she was at the time trying to exploit. So all of a sudden, Howie Mandel is somebody, and his show is something that should be denigrated. When in fact, most people who have started on his show have been very appreciative of the chance that they were given. I mean, many a big star started with Deal or No Deal. So the fact that Meghan never became a star wasn't due to Deal or No Deal not giving her the opportunity. It's that she didn't have the ability. Because we'd hardly say that number 6 on the call sheet for Suits was superstardom, irrespective of how Andrew Morton might have wished to present it in his ridiculous book Hollywood Princess, or whatever he called her.
No, indeed. And I mean, it's very interesting, Lady C, because we're starting to hear little bits and pieces, not directly from Trevor Engelson, because of course he's always been very dignified, but via his friends. And of course, Bethany Frankel, the former Real Housewife of New York star, recently revealed her friendship or potential romantic relationship with Trevor Engelson. And that famous line now from him where he said, "Oh, she'll close," when talking about Harry. We know also via Megyn Kelly, who is friend of a friend with Trevor Engelson, that Meghan Markle had Prince Harry on her, what was it called? Like a mood board. Do you know?
Board.
Yeah, like envisaging her future. So all of a sudden, Lady C, do you think people are feeling a little bit more emboldened to reveal a little bit more about Meghan's Hollywood past, shall we say, the sort of yacht girl history?
Oh, undoubtedly, Dan. I think, at first she was cloaked in the respectability and the glamour and the patina and the prestige of the royal family. And I think that meant that people hesitated to speak the truth, or many people hesitated to speak the truth, because of course many of the people who we would mention by name don't really know anything about the royal family, or how the royal family functions, or the reality of life in Britain in the upper reaches of society. They have no clue. And so they would erring very much on the side of caution and continue to do so for some considerable length of time. And it's only been in the last year or two. Well, I actually said that this year would turn out to be Meghan's undoing. And it's turned out that she was wrong when she wrote 2025 in the sand, and I was right when I said this was going to be her undoing. And it's been one thing after the other, but it started before, because people get emboldened to speak the truth when they realize that there are going to be no adverse consequences to them. And then they have a little nugget to add, and they're delighted to add it. I mean, you and I have sat around enough dinner tables where people serve tennis balls of bon mot to, so that everybody's entertained by how in the know they are. And so this is the sort of thing that's coming out now, and it will increasingly come out. And Trevor Engelson's one word, well, two words, she'll close, says all that needs to be said about how ruthlessly opportunistic and how totally artificial and how brilliantly adept at artifice Meghan is. Because Trevor knows he was used for many a year. And he believed the lie. He believed that she sincerely loved him. He believed, oh, I can't survive without Trev. Oh, I don't know what would happen to me if Trev, anything should happen to him. Then she gets a better opportunity, and Trev is yesterday's news and wrapped up with the fish.
Absolutely. And Lady C, with all of these new details leaking out, you think Prince Harry and Meghan Markle need to be very concerned about their future in regards to the royal family and titles and what William might do. What are you hearing, Lady C? What's going on?
I don't want to speak about what I'm hearing, if you don't mind. I'll speak about what I discern.
Yes.
I think, which is a safer way of putting it. The precedent has been set.
Mm-hmm.
And once the precedent is set, it's very easy to just revert, And in 1917, King George V stripped Prince Alistair of Connaught of his princely rank. And I've said it time and again that the king could do it because George V did it in 1917. Letters pated with a stroke of the pen. Prince Alistair of Connaught became the Earl of Macduff. Charles has effectively done the same thing with Andrew. There is another precedent because George V did this in 1917. And in 1919, I think it was, might have been 1920, but I think it was 1919, when Princess Patricia of Connaught was marrying a Scottish aristocrat, she was reduced in rank to be known as Lady Patricia Ramsay. And that she couldn't argue with George V's demand that she cease being known as Princess Patricia of Connaught, because then she'd have been Princess Patricia of Connaught, the Honourable Mrs. she'd have been, after she was married, she'd have been Princess Patricia, the Honourable Mrs. Alexander Ramsay. He said, no, you're going to be Lady Patricia Ramsay. And she couldn't argue with it. the Countess of Southesk, who was Princess Maud, she was banned from using her title Princess Maud as well, and she wasn't allowed to use it. So there are all these precedents that have been floating around for some time now. And Charles, by doing what he has done with Andrew, is giving a very clear message that the powers that George V had, he still possesses, and he's not hesitating to use them as and when he regards it as appropriate. Now, maybe Meghan thinks that if she makes hay while the sun shines, and if she speaks about racism enough, this is going to preserve her. Let's wait and see what happens, because, they say a week is a long time in politics. Well, years can be an eternity in terms of what will happen. Meghan and Harry could be divorced. Meghan could run off with Elon Musk. Elon Musk could send Meghan to Mars in one of his rockets.
Come on, that would be great.
Wouldn't that be great?
That would be great.
Maybe he can send her with a banana plantation owner so she can harvest bananas ad infinitum to her heart's content.
Lady C, it does feel like there are members of the aristocracy, though, that are being prepared to speak out a little bit more as well. I wanted to ask you about this from the Duchess of Northumberland, who I think the Times said had taken a thinly veiled swipe at Meghan Markle and Sarah Ferguson in a new interview. No, it was The Telegraph, sorry, a new interview with The Telegraph, where Jane Percy, who writes books under the pen name Jane Northumberland without reference to her title, said, "Unlike other duchesses who put their names everywhere, I'm not using my title. I'd say it could be detrimental, as one or two duchesses haven't really helped the cause lately. People think it must have been easy for me, but nothing comes from nothing. It's all been down to hard work." I mean, clearly, Lady C, she is referring to Meghan Markle and Sarah Ferguson, is she not?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, I don't really know her. I'd met her and her husband, Rafe, but I don't really know them. I was friendly with his elder brother, the late Duke of Northumberland, Harry. But she's very much in the dyed-in-the-wool aristocratic tradition, and she's absolutely right about the books. But what she doesn't explain, and I mean, I'm slightly aware of it because of my own situation, is that an author does not have the right to dictate the title of a book, or indeed their own name on the title of a book. That is up to the publisher. And I mean, Jane Northumberland is very, very, she writes, but she's a great gardener. And, she's a great gardener. And it would be regarded as pretentious in the nth degree if she published gardening books under the name Jane, Duchess of Northumberland. And she's perfectly correct to do them under the name Jane Northumberland. And everybody who's going to buy the book, because the gardening world is a relatively small world, will know who she is, because she's very well known in that world. Now, Sarah York, her books were sold because she was already known as the Duchess of York. Meghan Markle, I think, missed a really big trick, because Meghan Markle is better known as Meghan Markle than she is as Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. And I think she missed a huge trick in insisting that she be published as Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. She should have been published as Meghan Markle. And that would have actually aided her bona fides and made her far more credible and palatable and relatable than she has turned out to be. I mean, for instance, when when my first books were being published, I kicked up a fuss. I did not want them to be published as Lady Colin Campbell. But my publishers said to me, well, you don't have a right to dictate how you are styled on the cover of a book. And you are already well known as Lady Colin Campbell, and you've got to be published as Lady Colin Campbell. And in fact, with one of my books, I was so adamant that I actually refused to have an author's name on it at all. But I just say that for what it's worth. I get why Sarah York's books were published as York, but I think that Meghan is the one who would have insisted that her books be published as Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. And I think it's a big mistake that she made. And if she stopped using the name Sussex and used the name Markle, which everybody knows her as, it would take away some of the sting of her always saying, I don't care about titles, but you better call me by mine, because if you don't, I'm going to have to announce myself. Oh, and excuse me while I go and take a pee. Oh, now, please don't forget, Butler, as I'm entering the loo, say, lavatory, Duchess of Sussex is about to enter to do peas and give you the honor of a little piddle.
Now, Lady C, you've been going viral all across the internet. I've been desperate to ask you about this. I saw the headline actually on the Daily Express, and it said, legendary I'm a Celeb star storms off in new Netflix true crime doc trailer. And I was like, legendary I'm a Celeb star. It's got to be Lady C. It's got to be Lady C. And sure enough, it was. Now, this is some sort of Netflix show about a murder in Monaco, but they have decided to turn you into the selling point of this documentary. What happened? I haven't had a chance to ask you about this yet.
Well, I have to tell you, Dan, I'm as surprised as anybody else. I didn't even know about it until it was pointed out to me by viewers. And I've looked at it and I'm absolutely stunned. It's about the murder of Edmond Safra by his wife, Lily. And I wrote a book called Empress Bianca. It was published in 2005 first. And I published it as a novel. And Lily Safra effectively took a half a page of the Telegraph, because she was a publicity fiend as well, to say, Lady Colin Campbell has written this book, Empress Bianca, and she says it's a work of fiction, and it's about my life. I have not read the book, but I have identified 52 points in the book that I haven't read, where she says that Bianca is me, and that I killed two of my husbands when I didn't kill either of my husbands. And because the Safra murder might be a bit cold now, but in 1999, Edmond Safra, who was one of the richest men in the world, was murdered in Monaco. And it so happens that Lily's second husband was the richest man in Brazil, Freddie Monteverde. And that's the basis of Edmond Safra's fortune, not the Safra Bank fortune generally, because the other brothers had their own bank, but his fortune. And Lily and Edmond were having an affair. And she thought that Freddie Monteverde had found out about it. And they panicked and they killed him. I got all of this originally from Freddie's niece, Christina Fanto, I'll tell you who she is. Christina's first cousin is Georgina Andrews. Anthony Andrews, the actor, from Brideshead Revisited. His his uh, Georgina Andrews also was the Simpson Piccadilly heiress. She and Tony, her husband, Tony Andrews, were and are great, great friends of Princess Anne. And of course, I knew them all very well. And Christina is the one who originally said to me, because I said I wanted to write a book on something. And she said, you should write about how Lily bumped off my uncle. And then she introduced me to her mother, Rosita, who gave me chapter and verse on the whole thing. And when the book was published, Lily Safra went ballistic. And she got Anthony Julius, her lawyer, to threaten to bury my publisher, Arcadia, Gary Pulsifer, in writs if they did not pulp the book. So he's apologized, but said he had to pulp it, otherwise it would ruin his publishing house. So I said, fine, I'm not happy that you're doing it, but if you have to do it, you do it. And we remain great friends. And I then sued her. She didn't expect that. She thought she had so much money and power and muscle, and she'd be able to bury me. And I waited till the book was pulped, and I sued her for tortious interference with my publishing contract and with defamation. And when it got to the High Court, Mr. Justice Eady, who had been my barrister in the 70s when I was suing the various newspapers, including the Express and the Mail, and he by then was the chief defamation judge, and he suggested ways forward for us to settle it. So it was settled with honor on both sides, so to speak, and I was able to republish the book. So this Murder in Monaco is basically, I would imagine, the documentary on my book, Empress Bianca. But I don't really remember.
And were they horrible to you during the shoot at Castle Goring?
Well, evidently they did something that I didn't like because I stormed off. But I honestly, Dan, can't really remember.
Because it was a while ago, was it?
I'm so busy and I have so much going on. And it doesn't help that in the last several weeks I've been drugged up to my eyeballs and can't half the time can't even remember my own name. But I don't know if it's the drugs or if it's that I simply just don't remember, because it's obviously sufficiently memorable an event for Netflix to be running with it, but it's not so memorable in my everyday life for me to have remembered it, which is, I suppose, in some ways a damning indictment on the dramas that I have to put up with.
I think it shows that you live an absolutely wondrous life, Lady Colin Campbell, and you're a true original, and I'm so glad you were back home at Castle Goring and back on fighting form, although you haven't missed a show, which is amazing. Of course, you can subscribe to Lady Colin Campbell on YouTube, where you get all the best royal analysis multiple times a week. And of course, if you do want first access to our after show here on Outspoken.
Reports indicated that senior figures within the defence establishment had been urged to accelerate the process of removing the final remaining title of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor after what has been described as a prolonged delay. The issue gained renewed attention following King Charles' earlier decision to strip his brother of all remaining styles, honours and titles in light of continued scrutiny over Andrew's association with the late convicted sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein. The removal of his distinctions had already included the loss of the titles of Prince, Duke of York, Earl of Inverness and Baron Killyleague, along with the style traditionally known as His Royal Highness. He was also said to have been deprived of prestigious honours such as the Order of the Garter and the Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order. In addition, he was informed that he would no longer reside at Royal Lodge and would instead relocate to a private residence located on the King's Sandringham estate. Despite these extensive measures, Andrew continued to hold the honorary rank of Vice Admiral in the Royal Navy. The government had previously pledged, at the request of the King, to remove this final title as well. Defence officials acknowledged that the process was still underway, explaining that the matter had not yet reached completion. According to accounts, representatives from the Ministry of Defence reiterated that the department remained aligned with the King's intentions regarding the removal of Andrew's remaining distinctions. Within military circles, some senior figures expressed surprise at the length of the process. A former First Sea Lord and former Chief of the Naval Staff was reported as saying that the delay appeared extraordinary, questioning why it had taken so long to take action and noting that other senior officers had been removed from high-ranking positions with far greater speed. The view was expressed that, given the circumstances, the authorities should proceed without further hesitation. It was also clarified that the authority to remove the honorary title rested with the government rather than with the monarch. Andrew's history of service extended across more than 2 decades in the Royal Navy, during which he served as a helicopter pilot in the Falklands conflict. He was later granted the honorary rank of Vice Admiral around the time of his 55th birthday, and he had been scheduled for promotion to Admiral on his 60th birthday. That promotion, however, was indefinitely postponed after he withdrew from public royal duties following his widely criticised interview with a British broadcaster. The renewed pressure surrounding his status emerged amid further claims made in the posthumously published memoir of Virginia Giuffre. The memoir, extending to several hundred pages, alleged that she had been trafficked by Epstein and forced into situations involving Andrew on several occasions. Although Andrew has maintained that he never met her, he later agreed to pay a multi-million-pound settlement to resolve a civil case in the year 2022. Her book continued to level additional disturbing allegations relating to his behaviour. In response to the situation, Buckingham Palace delivered a public statement explaining that the monarch had initiated a formal procedure to remove Andrew's remaining style, titles and honours. The palace confirmed that he would, going forward, be identified simply as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It also stated that his legal right to remain at Royal Lodge had ended, that formal notification had been issued to surrender the lease, and that he would relocate to another private residence. The palace maintained that these actions were considered necessary, even though Andrew continued to deny all allegations raised against him.